Hey, what's up, investors? Good to see y'all again. It's Juan Pablo, the People's Mentor, and today we're going to discuss how you can find and buy and ultimately invest in multi-unit properties. This is what I like to call the ultimate guide in investing in multi-unit properties. Now, my 4-step process for finding and acquiring multi-unit properties is as follows. Phase 1, the first step, find the money. That's where we do everything in regard to making sure you have the right amount of capital to purchase a property. Step 2 is find the deal, and this is the part that we're going to be going in on today, okay, going in deep. Step 3 is perform due diligence, right? You want to make sure that everything from the roof to the basement gets inspected, that you check off everything to make sure it's A-okay to move forward with purchasing the property. And step 4 is the close. That's when you do the property management, appraisal, all that good stuff, okay? But for the emphasis of this video, again, we're going to be focusing on phase 2 of finding the deal. Now, this is the step in our 4-phase process, right, in which we find a winning multi-unit property in which we do all the work for you on your behalf. So during this phase, we do the following. First and foremost, when we want to pretty much locate a property that fits your needs, we have to make sure we know all your criteria, your purchasing power, how much capital you have, and so forth. Whether you can qualify for a residential property, multi-unit property, or a multifamily property. So then, once we find out your qualifications, we move forward with just sicking them, right? We send out our deal finders, whether that's our wholesalers, our real estate agents, and so forth, to find deals that suit your pockets, right? So we look at so many different deal sources to find the right deal. And once we find the right deal, we start the negotiations through the letter of intent. So the letter of intent is another word for an offer. So we're submitting offers left and right to negotiate the right purchase price and the terms so that it's a good deal for you, right? So we communicate back and forth with agents with the sellers and so forth to make sure that we get this thing pretty much identified, right? The deal identified, but the terms and purchase price pretty much like down on paper in the letter of intent, the offer. So once the offer gets accepted, then we move forward with presenting you with a deal. Like, hey, are you interested in this deal? Here's the letter of intent. Also, here's the listing. The listing is a document in which it shows the property, the numbers, and so forth, like picture of the property and so forth. So we share that with you. We also share with you the deal analyzer, such as, okay, so here's the numbers from the listing, the revenue, the expenses, and so forth. Here are the metrics. Here's the cash flow per door per month. Here's also the cash on cash return you can expect to receive. Here's some built-in equity that you should receive. So pretty much our metrics we share with you, right? So after we share those things with you, we say, hey, is this a deal that you would like to move forward with? And we also give you some information about the neighborhood, just to make sure it's in a safe neighborhood, the property's up to shape, and so forth. And we say, yep, I want to move forward with this deal because this is a cash flow in a box that I would like to close on. So we say, great, let's connect back with our deal finders, whether that's a wholesaler or a real estate agent, and to say, hey, our client wants to move forward with this deal in these terms. Let's move forward with getting this property under an AOS. That's an agreement of sale. In other words, that's a purchase and sell agreement, or just getting a deal on the contract to make it official. So once we reach out to the deal finder, whether it's the agent or wholesaler, and they agree with the seller, speaking with the seller, we get the contract drafted. We make sure that the client, let's say you in this case, signs it, and that the seller signs it. And then once we have that solidified document signed on the contract, then we move forward with the other phases. So phase 2 is extremely important. That phase, we make sure that we look at every single deal in our cash flowing markets. And by the way, we typically invest in markets in which there's a plethora, that's the SAT word, an abundance of multi-unit properties. Because we get those questions asked often. Well, what about this area? Or what about an area in my backyard? Can we do the map in one of those areas? Can we find a property in one of those areas? Well, we can, but my question to you is, what's the cash or cash return in that area? What's your cash flow per unit per month in that area? What's the built-in equity? What's the appreciation rate in that area? What percentage of multi-unit properties are in your area? And if you don't have the answers to those questions, then more than likely your market might not be a good market, meaning the market you live in might not be a good market for investing and buying whole multi-unit properties in contrast to the markets that we ourselves have researched and selected. So the markets we currently invest in, they have the percentage of multi-unit properties in that area is like 40% or higher, right? And they're cash flowing in safe areas with decent returns. So that's why we solidify properties in specific markets to fit our buying criteria. Because we want to make sure there's a cash flowing property that you acquire in your portfolio in which we do all the work for you. Okay, so independent of phase 2, find the deal, as I share with you, we do the phase 1, find the money, in which we make sure we know how much money you're bringing to the table. And when I say money, I'm not just talking about your down payment. There's other costs that are related to finding the money, such as how much reserves you need. Because you don't want to be one of those newbie investors in which you buy a property and you don't even think about reserve requirements. Because occasionally tenants move out, and occasionally the property needs repair. So you need to have reserves for that case. But outside of down payment money reserves, you also need money for, take a guess, closing costs. The attorney got to get paid for doing all that work, the title work. The real estate agent or the deal finder, the wholesaler got to get paid for doing their services and so forth. But you also got to factor in soft costs. There's costs incurred prior to closing as well. So every time I buy a property, and sometimes these costs can be expense or sunk costs, simply because the fact I'm just testing it out to see if it's a good deal I want to buy. For example, I might look at the numbers on a property, the listing, and say, whoa, this is a sweet deal. And then I order a property inspection and realize, whoa, there's a lot more repairs than what I thought it would be. Do I want to move forward? Yes, cool, I'll move forward. I'll see if I can negotiate credits and cash back at closing. But if not, no worries. At least I just spent $1,200, whatever it is, just to entertain doing this deal, instead of buying the deal outright and then find out later, ooh, this property is in dire straits. It definitely needs to be rehabbed. Okay? So there's just some costs you spend up front. So just to sum it up, for finding the money, you have to consider down payment money, reserves, closing costs, and soft costs. And then you go into phase 2, which I just outlined, find the deal. Then you go into phase 3, performing the due diligence. To share with you, everything gets inspected, trust but verify. The financials and the physical aspects of the property. And in phase 4, that's your final lap. That's when you do all the closing procedures. Make sure the title work's okay, the appraisal's okay, make sure you have property management in place, you get the keys, and you close on that property, right? So those are the 4 phases in our process for making sure that you acquire a cash flowing multi-unit property. Now, once you find that deal that fits the criteria I just outlined, the criteria I just explained, make sure you grab it, right? Lock it down, because I can't wait to see the results that you get. Now, if you're interested in learning how to invest in multi-unit properties, or you're just interested in having us do it for you, then by all means, just check the link below in the YouTube description to learn more, all right? As always, guys, this is to your success. Continue to earn passively and live passionately. Peace.